Okay, so now that our pawn is created, let's see how we can actually add a camera so that we can have a view of our pawn in the game. Okay, so what we're gonna do to add like this camera view, we are gonna go ahead and here on the left side, let's add one more component to this. So let's go ahead and add a camera component, this one right here. And now here we can control our camera so that we can have the view that we want. Okay, so some games have different camera views. For example, if we're gonna be on a first person kind of game, you wanna make sure that your camera is pointing something like this, basically through the eyes of the pawn. That way we get like this first person view. So the first person view is pretty easy to set up. Just having your camera something like this should be enough. But now, what if we wanted to do, let's say, a third person view? So the person view, remember, is the one where you actually see your character in front of you when you're playing. So for the third person view, we will need to move the camera somewhere like right here on the top and maybe rotate this a little bit so that it has a little bit of a downward view, something like this. Okay, so this will be the third person view. But now the thing is that if we just leave it like this and play our game, we might have issues down the line because this distance between the camera and the pawn itself, it could change as the game goes. And we don't want that to change. We want to always stay, basically always this distance should be fixed. So we're gonna add one more component that is gonna allow the distance to always be consistent. So that component is gonna be this one. Let's go and add and look for one called spring arm. So this spring arm component basically is uh, an asset that maintains a fixed distance between two other components, okay? So that's the one we need here to connect the camera and the pawn correctly. Okay, one thing we have to pay attention to is that this hierarchy here on the component side is correct. So what we're gonna do, just make sure that first you have the default scene root, then you have the spring arm as a child of this. So drag and drop that into there and select attach. So it should be like right here afterwards. And then the camera is gonna be a child of the spring arm. So something like this. In this way, the camera and the spring arm are always referencing each other. We want this to always be connected, okay? So right now, this is kind of like too far away, I think. So let's go ahead and change the distance. So you don't have to change the distance by moving around anymore because the spring arm has a very nice feature here on the details panel, which is the target arm length. Okay, so this changes the distance of the spring arm. So I'm just gonna go ahead and choose 100. That way, as you can see now, we have a little bit of a better view of a third person view of our pawn. Okay, so make sure you do that. And now we have the third person view properly set, so compile and save. And now, when we are gonna go into our game, so you can close this, we still are missing one more thing, which is that we need to actually set our pawn, the chair pawn that we did as our default pawn, which that's something we haven't done yet. So go to my game mode. Remember the game mode where we set our rules that we did before? Go on that. And now here you have like different things you can change. So here you have default pawn class. Basically, this default pawn is the one I was saying that it's invisible, that we were moving around in these lessons. So let's change that because we don't want to use that one anymore. Now we're going to use my pawn. Okay, so change that, compile and save. And now when we go into our game, I think we still need to, okay, you see, even though I didn't like actually add my pawns to the details panel, it is the default pawn now. So when I run my game now, you see we get now this third person view of our pawn because it's now our default pawn for our game. Okay, so run your program. Make sure that when you run, you are getting this third person view for your pawn. You're not gonna be able to move it yet because we haven't got to that part of the unit, but later on we will be able to move this around as well.